Okay, hello, and welcome to your first guidance lesson from myself, Kevin Hilliard. Uh, I'm going to talk about regulating emotions today for our guidance lesson. And I have two students here, um, Bucky and Charles Winchester IV. And Bucky, I need you to pay attention. Charles, you're doing a good job showing good attention there, and those are my students today. But anyway, let's get started, and let's talk about a bit about the rationale for this lesson today. Emotions can be powerful signals from the body to let us know whether we're in a good place or bad, but they can also take over and make us do things we might regret. Learning to effectively deal with uncomfortable emotions can be greatly beneficial to living a happy and healthy life. Emotions communicate to and influence others as well. Facial expressions and tone of voice account for the majority of meaning in a conversation sometimes. Emotions organize and motivate action. They can save time by getting us to act quickly. And emotions can be self-validating. Our reactions can give us information about a situation. So it's important to be aware of our emotions and not to let them just run rampant. What this lesson is about is our emotions. They can frequently be very intense and erratic. Our emotions often drive our behavior. A lot of our behavior focuses around finding ways to get our emotions validated or to get rid of the pain in some way. Because of this, learning to regulate emotions is an integral part of well-being. This does not mean that emotions are invalid, and it does not mean that we are trying to get rid of them. They are valid and important. But because our emotions cause us so much pain and often keep us feeling out of control, we are going to first learn some things about our emotions and where they come from. And then we will learn some techniques about managing our emotions, reducing our vulnerability to negative emotions, learning to experience some positive emotions, and learning to reduce our emotional suffering. Okay, I can't change my emotions. I don't know if you've heard that, but I've heard that before, and I've thought that before. And but is this true or false? And so I would have a discussion with the class about, whether they think it's true, whether they think their emotions are just things like forces of nature that they can't control, or whether they feel like they can change their perspective from time to time. And so I'd have a class discussion about that. It could last 2 to 5 minutes, I suppose. Okay, and I kind of have a feeling that a lot of the students might agree that might think that they can't change them, and so that would put them in a pretty helpless situation, but a situation where I think I can help them with. A couple of good quotes here from Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a very well-respected spiritual guide. Sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. So, in effect, saying, maybe if you approach things with a smile or a smiling attitude, a happy attitude, you might get better results than if you go in grumpy and frowning. And another one from Eckhart Tolle, someone who I really respect and admire. If you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place. Primary reality is within, secondary reality without. So I would ask the class whether they believe that's true or not. But it's pretty evident, I think, when you look at your life, what you're feeling on the inside usually manifests, or you attract those things to you. So if you're feeling bad, or if you're feeling like somebody's going to hurt you or make you a victim, that's pretty much what you're going to get. And if you're feeling happy and feeling like no one can bring you down, then no one will. And so that's the power of our thoughts and the power of our emotions to manifest that reality in our lives outside what's going on inside. Okay. What is emotion regulation? The mental and behavioral processes by which people influence their own feelings and the feelings of others. Examples, cheering yourself up, listening to happy, upbeat music, or on the downside, worrying, making yourself anxious. You could also listen to angry music. Different modes of music can be angry or sad or happy, as you know. So those all can influence yourself. Venting anger and criticizing others or calming down a child are ways that you can influence others' emotions. Alrighty. Let's try and operate this thing correctly. Okay. So how do people regulate feelings? Strategies can include thinking about a situation differently or changing behaviors, such as doing something fun as a distraction. Sometimes simply changing your face, smiling, or trying different emotional expressions, like changing your tone and posture, can also influence your behavior. Best practices for regulation, some include, it depends on the context, but reappraisal or thinking about things from a different perspective can help. For example, if you read an article about someone who has a life-threatening illness or who's paralyzed from the neck down, or poverty-stricken people at home and abroad, you can kind of see that maybe what you're going through isn't so bad, and maybe you can do something about it. And so maybe you can realize you were making a mountain out of a molehill. Okay, so a good thing to do is be aware of your emotions. Observe your emotion. Note its presence. Take a step back and try and get unstuck from that emotion. I find this to be very helpful. If I'm angry and I take a look at myself from a third person perspective and look at this fool acting crazy because he's so angry and yelling and throwing things, it kind of looks pretty foolish sometimes. So that's a good way to get an idea of what you're feeling, and maybe it's not the best way to feel or to act. Experience your emotion. Experience it as a wave coming and going. Try not to block it. Try not to suppress it, because what you resist persists. Don't try to get rid of it. Don't try and push it away, because it'll come back. and don't hold on to it either. So don't amplify it. Don't give it credence. Just let it pass, and don't judge it. So there's a lot of don'ts there, but they're good things to keep in mind. You don't want to hold on too tight, and you don't want to try and push it away either, because that won't help. But taking a step back and being non-judgmental, trying to see it for what it really is a good way to go. Things to remember. You don't necessarily need to act on your emotion. Remember times when you have felt differently. Practice loving your emotion. Try not to judge it. Practice willingness. And radically accept your emotion. These are all things you can get better at with practice. All right. I know this seems like a long lecture, but we will be getting involved in some activities soon, so Just hold tight. Actually, we're going to watch a video here in a second, but there's a book called from Aldous Huxley where there's many signs that people see to keep reminding themselves, be here now. And I think that's a great way to look at things. Most emotions are caused from either being in the future or the past in your head. Another quote from Eckhart, all negativity is caused by an accumulation of psychological time and denial of the present. Unease, anxiety, tension, stress, worry, all forms of fear are caused by too much future and not enough presence in the present moment. Guilt, regret, resentment, grievances, sadness, bitterness, they're all forms of non-forgiveness, and they're caused by too much past, living in the past, and not enough presence. So stay present, and you may not be taken down or taken over by your emotions. All right. We've got a video here we're going to watch, and tell me what you think. I'll be stopping it in different places. Okay. Here it comes. Who here in class spends a lot of time in the past or in the future instead of being where you are now? Bucky, you're sleeping today? Okay. I think Bucky mainly stays in the present moment. Okay, here we go. Oops. Okay, so what happened there in that video? Has that ever happened to anyone here? You're in not a club necessarily, but maybe you're at a dance or a restaurant, and somebody bumps into you, and what your immediate reaction is like, "Hey, you just violated my space. You know, you need to apologize, or I'm gonna make you feel sorry for what you did. So that's a pretty common reaction. But whether it was intentional or not, you have the power to choose your reaction, both emotionally and physically. So could have just been a mistake, and even if it wasn't, it's probably not something that you should get all riled up about, because it'll ruin your night and it's not worth it. So there's that. Let's keep watching and see what other circumstances. All right. So that was, obviously kind of a bummer for him. And those kind of things happen on a daily basis, but that doesn't make you feel any better about it. But did he have the right reaction? Or what do you think about that? And I imagine the class would discuss his assumption that she hates him and that he'll be alone forever. I think those are preconceived notions that really may not be true, and clearly he's just reacting emotionally without really maybe talking to her a little more might have helped. And at any rate, just because she may not like him or she is rejecting him doesn't make him a bad guy. It's just not meant to be. So that's a situation that could cause a lot of negative feelings, and something that he should be aware of feeling, and not get taken away on the wave of these feelings to a dark place. There's time for grieving, and then there's time for moving on with your life and realizing, hey, if she doesn't like me, that's her loss, So anyway, I think that the class could have a pretty good discussion about that, because everybody has relationships and romance and things like that happen a lot. Okay, let's watch this last one and see what happens. Oops. Okay, so what happened there? And we're gonna stop this now because we've seen enough. Oops. Okay. Having a little bit of technical difficulty. Okay. I still have that. Okay, about that. Oops. Okay, and we're back. Feelings, identifier, and drawing. Okay, now we're going to get into some maybe more fun stuff than just listening to me babble all day long. Please circle 3 positive and 3 negative emotions on this chart, okay, which is going to be a handout that I'm going to give everybody. So circle 3 positive and 3 negative that you feel, not just today, but generally, most of the time, or ones you're having problems with, or feelings that you're proud of, that you would like to feel more often. Okay, all right. So circle 3. Next, draw 2 pictures, one with the negative emotions and another with the positive emotions displayed as metaphors. So, like, if you feel anxiety, you could draw a rain cloud, or if you feel anger, you could draw a lion roaring, or something to that effect. And then when you're done with those drawings, and they don't need to be great, awesome drawings, just stick figures if you don't feel like you're a good artist, but everybody has some type of artistic talent, I think, so don't worry about that. And then write a short poem on whichever drawing you most identify with. So if you like your happy emotions and you like that drawing, then write a short poem about it. This is just an activity to help you see your emotions in different ways and get a better handle on what you do feel. So I like this quote too, that sometimes only paper, I'll get this out of here. Sometimes only paper will listen to you. So that's kind of true, I think. Sometimes you can't find anybody to use as a shoulder to cry on. So you can tell everything to the paper. The lines don't care, they don't judge, and it usually makes me feel better when I'm stuck on something. If I just write down what I'm feeling, write down the pros and cons, write a poem, draw a picture, paint something, these can really be great ways to help you regulate your emotions, be aware of them, and work through them. It can be cathartic. So there's that. All right. So I imagine that would take a while, probably 10 or 15 minutes. So I hope I'm not going too far over, but if I included that, we'd probably be at like 30 minutes. It doesn't matter. Okay. So they'll do their picking of emotions and drawing a picture, about 3 of them, metaphorical picture, and then write a poem. So I think those are all things that would be fun, would help them become more aware of themselves and what they can do about their emotions. Okay. So really, just to close, thoughts lead to feelings, which lead to actions, and those actions have results or consequences, whatever you want. But that's the cycle that goes around, and the Buddhist thought is, right thought leads to right action, right thought leads to right speech, and right speech leads to right actions, and I think it's pretty true. And so does Yoda here, and we will close by just hearing what Yoda has to say on the matter. All right. And I think that's pretty true. And then I would, ask the class what they think about that, and whether they are mainly, involved with fear and acting on fear, or whether they're acting out of love. And those 2 different poles are pretty much, you run the gamut of all emotions in those 2 different poles, and it's helpful to try and move to working from the pole of love and not the pole of fear, which can lead to suffering and sadness and anger and all those bad things. So it's good to be aware. of your emotions, and it's good to try and regulate them, not to let them be something that's a detriment in your life, but something that you can use as signals to help you be aware of your situation. Your body's letting you know that something's wrong sometimes. So that's a little bit about regulating emotions, and I hope it benefits everyone, and can't wait to see you all again for my next guidance lesson. Thanks.